Meteorologists say a major disaster is dangerously close to hitting Florida because of the shape of the bay.
What if most dangerous disaster facing a major U.S. city didn't arrive with chaos? No explosion, no immediate destruction, no moment where everything suddenly breaks. What if it started quietly, so quietly that most people wouldn't even realize what was happening? Water slowly rising. At first, it looks harmless, a little flooding, a few inches on the road. Something people have seen before. Something people think they understand. But this time, doesn't stop, it keeps rising. And by the time people realize the danger, it's already too late. Because in Tampa Bay, scientists have been studying a scenario that doesn't look dramatic at first glance. One has the potential to become one of the most devastating natural disasters in the region's history, a storm surge. Not just a coastal flood, but a massive movement of ocean water driven by powerful winds, pushed inland by atmospheric pressure, and amplified by the shape of the coastline itself. Under the right conditions, this surge could reach heights of up to 22 feet of water. To understand that, imagine standing in a single-story home. Now imagine water rising above the roof. That's the scale of what scientists are modeling. And in a region where millions of people live close to sea level, that scale becomes terrifying. At first glance, Tampa Bay feels like a place built for calm. Sunlight beaches, coastal neighborhoods, a region that thrives because of its connection to water. But that same connection is also its greatest vulnerability. The geography of the bay plays a critical role. Unlike steep coastlines where waves crash and retreat, Tampa Bay is shallow. The seafloor gradually slopes upward toward land. This means when water is pushed toward the coast, it doesn't dissipate, it accumulates. It builds and it moves inland. The shape of the bay makes this even more dangerous. It curves inward like a funnel, darring water into a confined space, concentrating it, amplifying its force. And when a powerful storm approaches from the right direction, this natural funnel effect can turn a storm surge into something far more destructive because the water has nowhere to go except forward, into streets, into homes, into entire communities, and when it arrives, it doesn't knock, it takes over. Roads disappear beneath rising water, cars are lifted, buildings are flooded, power systems fail. Communication networks go down, and what was once a functioning city frames into a flooded landscape within hours. But perhaps the most dangerous part is how quickly this can happen. Storm surge is not always a slow event. Under certain conditions, water levels can rise rapidly, faster than expected, faster than some people can respond. And in a densely populated region like Tampa Bay, that creates a serious risk. Nearly 3 million people live in the greater Tampa Bay area. That's millions of lives connected to infrastructure, transportation systems, emergency services, all of which depend on stability, and storm surge disrupts all of it. The scenario scientists fear most involves a powerful hurricane forming in the Gulf of Mexico. As it strengthens over warm water, it builds energy, wind speeds increase, pressure drops. And as it approaches the Florida coastline, its direction becomes critical. If the storm moves toward Tampa Bay, at a certain angle, winds can push massive amounts of water directly into the bay. The funnel effect takes over. Water piles up, levels rise, and the surge begins. At first, may not seem extreme. Water creeping onto roads, minor flooding in low areas, but then accelerates. Water rises faster, spreads further, and soon escape routes begin to disappear. Highways flood. Bridges become unsafe, evacuation becomes difficult, and for those who waited too long, options become limited. This is why storm surge is often described as more dangerous than wind, because wind damages structures, but water removes stability, it undermines foundations, it carries debris. It changes the environment completely, and once it reaches a certain level, becomes unstoppable. The term silent catastrophe is used because this type of disaster does not begin with panic. It begins with normality, people going about their daily routines, shops open, traffic moving, and then slowly, situation changes, water begins to rise. And by the time it is recognized as a serious threat, it may already be too late to respond effectively. Climate conditions add another layer to this risk. Warmer ocean temperatures can fuel stronger storms. Rising sea levels increase the baseline. Even a few inches of sea level rise can significantly increase storm surge impact because the water starts higher and reaches further inland. This means events that were once considered rare can become more frequent and more intense. But even without these changes, natural geography of Tampa Bay already creates a high-risk environment. That is why scientists and engineers take these scenarios seriously. They use models and simulations to predict possible outcomes, analyzing data, studying past storms, trying to understand what could happen and how to reduce the impact. But prediction has limits. Storms are complex systems. Small changes in direction or intensity can dramatically alter results. That uncertainty is what makes preparation essential, because once the event begins, there is no stopping it. The only real defense is being ready before it happens. Evacuation planning is critical. Knowing which areas are most at risk, understanding when to leave, recognizing that waiting too long can be dangerous because traffic congestion alone can become a major obstacle. Thousands of people trying to leave at once creates delays, and delays reduce the time available to reach safety. The idea of a 22-foot surge is not meant to create fear. It is meant to illustrate possibility. A scenario based on scientific modeling, a scenario that shows what could happen under the right conditions. And understanding that possibility is the first step toward reducing risk. In the end, this is not just a story about a storm. It is a story about vulnerability, about how geography, climate, and human development combine to create risk, and about how that risk must be managed. Because the goal is not to eliminate storms. That is impossible. The goal is to reduce impact, to protect lives, to ensure that when the water rises, people are prepared, because when it does not wait. It does not slow down. It moves forward, relentless, and everything in its path must respond. The story of Tampa Bay is still unfolding. Storms will come, water will rise, and each event will test the system. The only question is, how prepared will the region be when that moment arrives? Because when it does, difference between preparation and delay could mean everything.